Hi, welcome to Asian American Life. I'm Renabelle DeMillo. This month, we're at the Queens Museum in Flushing Meadows Corona Park, where New York-based Chinese artist Zhuang Hongtu debuts 50 years of work from his early days in China to present-day New York. Zhuang Hongtu showcases 90 contemporary art objects, starting with the Mao series, which depicts the harsh life of the Cultural Revolution. Then there's the play on the masters, from Van Gogh to Monet, to Zhuang's pursuit of artistic freedom in the West. Now let's take a look at what's coming up on our show. Documenting life, Minnie Roh looks at the groundbreaking films of Daicel Kim Gibson. Amerasians, what happened to the children of the Vietnam War 40 years later? Mike Gilliam has an exclusive report. We start our show with an in-depth look on Asian American gay families. We turned a legal tide on gay marriage in the U.S., but for many Asian American LGBTQs, it's still a struggle to find acceptance within their own communities.
They are mothers and sons, daughters and grandparents. They are Asian American families who love their LGBTQ children, and they aren't afraid to let the world know.
Having a family member being able to publicly express their willingness to understand, willingness to connect, and willingness to take a stand for the person that they love and care about is a very powerful message to their community.
I've always been proud of my son from the time...
The public service announcements are part of a joint campaign by the National Queer Asian Pacific Islander Alliance and Asian Pride Project. It's a multimedia, multilingual campaign featuring Asian American families supporting their LGBTQ children and grandchildren.
After all, family is still family. Love is still love.
Elena Chang appeared with her 89-year-old grandmother. It's a powerful image to hear a matriarch embrace her granddaughter's life.
I think that there's been so much negativity and shame around these topics, especially in the Asian community, that we do need role models. We also need some positive outlets out there.
According to recent data, an estimated 630,000 Asian Pacific Islanders self-identify as LGBT and 54,000 transgender, but many are still in the closet, still afraid to tell their families. There are unique challenges to being gay in the Asian community. A 2010 Boston University study found that these challenges can often lead to rejection from their families and stigmatization by the larger Asian community. Many are socially conservative, and homosexuality still carries a social stigma in many Asian cultures.
Both of my parents are evangelical Christians. They're very involved with the church. My father was a founding elder of my church, and my mom, she is a worship deaconess. And I was very, very involved in my faith, in my church community. When I it came to a head that I had to come out to my parents, or they kind of discovered that I was gay, it did not go over well.
For Asian males, there's also the cultural obligation to marry and to honor the family traditions.
For the most part, in my experience, it's been more difficult to communicate my sexuality being South Asian American. There's the expectation of marriage, and a lot of focus is put on that, and a lot of pressure is put on that.
We really started the project from the place where people are alienated and isolated from their families. They carry a lot of fear of disappointing their parents, their community.
They are asking the community to share their stories, like Sean and Jason, which are then posted on a multimedia website. So we asked the women of the Asian Pride Project, Aries Elena and Suma Reddy, to share their coming out stories with us. Suma's parents live in India, where homosexuality is against the law.
I was really, really scared of disappointing them. I know they would never disown me, but I didn't want rejection. And I have a huge, circle of aunts and uncles and cousins and things like that, and I was so scared of rejection.
Elena came out to her mom first, but waited to tell her father.
For him, I think that it was really important to him to let me know that I would still be his daughter. And it was crazy because, I was okay with my mom accepting me, but then when my father accepted me and was okay with it, I felt like, you know what? I can come out to everyone and their mother, it does not matter.
They also talked about the stages of coming out, because while their children may be out, parents still keep it a secret.
As each year goes by, more and more parents are coming out of the closet and showing support, and that's our own parents as well. My parents just came out of the closet probably, even in this past month or so.
Many years later, as I was becoming more active in the LGBT community, my parents started telling other folks, so they came out. They came out as parents of me.
Aries came out to her mother years ago, but her mom, from Taiwan, is still struggling.
For my mom, she actually hasn't really come out as my mom, as a mother of a queer person, right? For her, she's out with my community who are LGBTQ. She comes, she brings food, she's comfortable, she tries to be supportive, but she has not told any of her family members.
And for Aries, this is the reason she's involved with the Asian Pride Project. She's one of the co-founders.
One of the main goals, at least for me personally, was in hopes for Asian Pride Project to be able to change that culture, to give people in Asia too a way of understanding the LGBTQ issues.
One mother who did find her voice is Clara Yoon. She is the mother of a transgender son.
My husband and I, just like many other parents, we were in shock, we were in denial, and we were afraid. Because one, we didn't know what being transgender means, and we, based on our limited experience or understanding, we knew that my son's life was going to be hard.
Clara's son is now in college, and she asks us not to reveal his identity as he is still transitioning. Clara, meanwhile, has become a vocal parent advocate.
I was just like any other Asian woman. I was taught to be quiet. I was taught to listen to the elders and not argue, be nice to other people. And I never really thought that I have a voice, and this experience of supporting my son gave me a courage because I saw him being so courageous, and I'm so proud of him.
Clara started the Asian support group at PFLAG, creating a much-needed program tailored to meet the language and cultural needs of the community. She also teamed up with the Asian Pride Project and appeared in this PSA, aimed at Korean families. Clara is no longer afraid.
당신의 아이, 나의 아이, 그리고 우리들의 아이를 위해 나서야 할 시간이 되었습니다. I had a fear, right? I didn't know what the reaction would be, but I had to take the step, and I had to make the decision, and I had to step out of my comfort zone. And I'm so happy of being where I am. I'm so happy that I can be inspiring figure for other community members and other parents.
And she, along with other AAPI parents, are hoping to reach out to parents across the country and to let them know they're not alone.
My message to other Asian American parents who are out there who may have LGBT children and do not know what to do, come join us, because we are building a network of parents who support their LGBT children.
Taeshia Kim Gibson is an award-winning filmmaker and author whose work is best known for championing the cause of neglected human rights issues. But she's not your typical documentarian. At 77 years old, Kim Gibson had a whole other life and career before plunging into the world of film 25 years ago. This is the latest in a long line of documentaries by Taeshia Kim Gibson. People of the Sky is about life in North Korea. It is her opus, the story she was born to tell. North Korea is the birthplace she fled as a 7-year-old girl following the end of the Japanese occupation in 1945.
One morning, my grandmother shook my shoulder, said, "Get up." And I said, "Why? It's so early." And she said, "We are leaving."
Her family settled in South Korea, where she lived until she graduated college. It wasn't until 2012 and again in 2013 that Kim Gibson set foot in North Korea. Although she was under constant supervision by 2 guards, she still managed to get the footage she needed for her documentary through her sheer tenacity.
They would take me to the children's park and tell me, come here. And I would go there, and then I see a man on the street. He looks like a person that I should interview, and then I would run to him. And these guys, by the time when they follow me, running after me, I'm already shooting, So they couldn't do anything about it. So that's how I got some unusual stuff that people who just obey guys would not be able to get.
The result is an intimate portrayal of everyday life in one of the most oppressed societies in the world.
I'm finally going to visit Sinchon, my hometown.
Her trademark shock of curly hair matches her outsized spunk and determination that has fueled her since her youth. She came to America in 1962 with $25 in her pocket. With minimal English skills, she enrolled at Boston University to pursue a doctorate degree in religion. She went on to teach at Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts. All of this laid the foundation for her true calling.
Teaching, in the best sense of the word, is sharing knowledge, experience, your life with other people. So when I taught, I was really very good looking back in asking questions. You can't be a documentary filmmaker if you do not have questions, good ones, and if you do not know how to ask them.
Kim Gibson says at the age of 50, she ventured into the world of filmmaking as a result of anger. It was just after the LA riots in the early 1990s. Racism and cultural misunderstandings caused tensions to bubble up between the Korean and African American communities.
True that blacks and Koreans did not get along, like in many other cases, that when new immigrants come, they naturally go to where blacks have been and still are, because they cannot go into a rich area. So they get conflict and they fight with the same pie and all of that. But that was not the cause. The cause of LA riot was a long continued racial strife in this country. And these supposedly smart mainstream people did not seem to know the difference between cause and the symptom. I was really mad.
At that time, there were only a handful of Asian Americans, particularly females, who were producing documentaries on social justice issues. Kim Gibson charged into the field head on.
We decided to make this documentary to give voice to the Korean American shopkeepers and shop owners who lost everything during the Los Angeles upheaval. When you are pushed by madness, fury, and anger, coupled with the righteousness, then you do things. And that's how I went and started making film.
She produced 429, the film that put her on the map as a documentarian of note. It tells the story of the LA riots from the eyes of the female Korean American immigrant generation.
all these stories that mainstream conveyed through the mouth of Koreans, they were conveyed by second generation and third generation Korean Americans because they were the ones who could speak the language. The real victims, parents and grandparents, they were not interviewed because they could not speak English.
Kim Gibson has an immense passion for digging up forgotten issues and giving a voice to the voiceless. When a former comfort woman or sex slave of World War II was speaking at a Korean church in Washington, D.C., she agreed to interpret for the woman, even though she was hesitant at first to get involved. She still has vivid memories of the Japanese occupation.
When comfort woman issue came, I did not want to be drawn into that past. It was a very painful thing I wanted to get away from. So I just translated very quietly, concentrating on doing a good job of translation. And then all of a sudden, I felt a very firm grasp of hand on my shoulder. And she shook me. And she said, "Look, I want to talk to you. Just look at me," she said. "You're a Korean woman, and I want to see how you would feel about this."
While researching this film, she stumbled upon yet another story about a group of Korean laborers who were shipped off to a northern Japanese island to work in the coal mines and build railroads during the occupation. When Korea was liberated, these men were abandoned on this island and never made their way home. This became her film, The Forgotten People, Sakhalin Koreans.
I saw these images of these old men, who couldn't go home and stayed on that island for 50 years, on that frozen island. I fell apart. I was so sad. So I knew then that I had to go to that island and make a film.
The film would never have happened, however, without the extreme sacrifice of her beloved late husband, Don Gibson. He believed so strongly in his wife that he took money entrusted to him by his parents, their life savings and emergency funds of $50,000, and financed her trip.
Don took that money out and he bought 100 Kodak film rolls and put in the knapsack and say, "Good luck, have a good trip, and make a good film." That was my husband. I am a farm boy husband. Without Don help like that, I would have never been able to make a film.
Now, at 77 years old, Kim Gibson says she is finally ready to hang up her filmmaking hat and retire. She is still grieving for her husband, Don, a senior government official at the National Endowment for the Humanities, who died of Crohn's disease in 2009. She has poured her grief into her paintings, poetry, and her writing, including Looking for Dawn, a meditation, and Iowa Sky, a memoir she compiled on his life.
I wanted to be myself, completely alone, solitary, and I never let my husband go, so I'm still living with him. So I live like that, simple life. Getaway goals, getaway ambitions, live with simplicity, and I want to write.
People of the Sky premiered in mid-October at the Korean American Film Festival in New York. Her earlier films have been broadcast on PBS, Sundance, and the Discovery Channels. I'm Minnie Rowe for Asian American Life.
I'm Mike Gilliam. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the fall of Saigon and the end of the Vietnam War. And while we often hear about Vietnam veterans and their struggles, we don't hear a lot about the children fathered by American soldiers and contractors and left behind. Some of them have struggled. Others have done well.
I would not even imagine what would happen to us if we stayed behind. There was no option.
Thousands fled in a mass exodus. Author Kien Nguyen was one of those forced to flee.
That day, the fall of Saigon changed so many people's life. it made me grow up, whether I was ready or not. My mother made me. She, so many ways, ripped away that childhood.
Kien traveled with his mother, brother, and sister. He says getting out of Vietnam was tough. They had been a well-off family with servants, but lost all their money and their nice home. His mother was forced to do many unthinkable things to provide for her children.
My mom, in order to keep us afloat, she had to take the tin roof, dismantle the tin roof, and sell it to get money for us to buy food. So we came to America, and all of a sudden, all that problem was behind us.
But before leaving, life as an Amerasian, born of a Vietnamese mother and an American father, was difficult. Kien says he was acutely aware that he was different.
Kids would poke me, see if I was real, because my hair was curly and I don't look like them, and my skin is way too white for them.
And this is because of your background,
Yes.
your father and your mother.
We were always so groomed, so nicely dressed and wearing sandal while they're wearing bare feet.
Was it difficult for you, growing up from a mixed background?
Oh yeah, I was so keenly aware of who I am. I remember a communist woman walking down the street, and she traveled from Hanoi to Saigon. And she said, "Oh my God, what a beautiful child." And she would come in and touch me, and her comrade was screaming at her and tell her, "That's the product of American. That all evil in there. Don't touch it, it might bite you." And I remember her recoil from me like I'm all of a sudden become poison to her.
Some of it ended when Kien and his family made it to New York, but the scars remained.
I began to have terrible nightmares, and the nightmare is always recurrent, and it's always about me trying to get out of Vietnam. And as I get to the gate, someone stopped me.
The dreams lasted for years, Kien waking up in a cold sweat most nights and not getting enough sleep. In college, he says, a roommate found him huddled in a corner after having one of the dreams and recommended that he see a therapist on campus. The therapist encouraged him to confront the dreams.
Write down the dream and you just look at it, face it. Why do you have this dream? And I did.
And those memories led to his first book, The Unwanted, dealing with the unwanted children of American soldiers and contractors left behind. Like most Amerasians, Kien doesn't know his father. In fact, an Ohio State University study showed that 76% of Amerasians coming to the U.S. wanted to meet their fathers, but only 3% actually did. Kien tried. He says he tracked his father, an engineer, to a company called RMK that employed contractors and engineers that went into Vietnam to clean up after the war. He says part of him wonders about meeting his father, but another part tells him not to.
I had this image of my father, this really shiny knight in armor, just take me away from all that troubles.
But Kien did find a father figure in Frank Andrews, a psychic who helped out when Kien's mother was ill and undergoing quadruple bypass surgery. He got Kien and his brother to go to school.
Said, "If I take care of you two, when I get old, you take care of me?" And I said, "What do you mean by taking care?" He said, "You need good education. I know you want to be a writer, but be a doctor. Be what your mother wants first."
Kien became a dentist. His brother became an engineer. And now he's an author.
We huddled on our small futons and listened to the foreign sound of marching feet and pounding fists reverberating from door to door down the block.
He says he wants people to take two things away from his book. The first is about the human spirit.
Human strength are boundless. Some people may need to be tested, but we always bounce back.
And the other deals with the ramifications of war.
I give that voice to all those children who couldn't talk about it, who doesn't have the capacity to write about it. before you do something in life. I mean, think of the consequences. That's what I wanted the book to speak to people about.
It's getting easier for Amerasians to find their biological fathers. Meet Trista Goldberg. She's Amerasian and an adoptee. She founded something called Operation Reunite.
Operation Reunite is a nonprofit that I organized after I searched and found my birth mother. We incorporated in 2003. Since then, we've been assisting adoptees, Amerasians, vets, and birth family in Vietnam reunite with DNA.
It was an expensive proposition back then, but with prices coming down and the rise of the internet, it's becoming somewhat easier to reunite through DNA.
In 2001, DNA was actually just starting out, so I spent a lot of money verifying that my mother was who she really was and that my siblings were actually my siblings through DNA. At that time, I probably had to spend close to $2,500 a test.
Trista was raised outside of Philadelphia in Bucks County in a middle-class family. She says her dad was a police officer, a detective. Mom was a stay-at-home until the kids were old enough for her to go back to work, and she sold real estate.
I was adopted before Operation Baby Lift, which happened in 1975. And the reason my father, my adopted father, and my mother decided to adopt a child from Vietnam was that my father served in the Vietnam War. He had very positive memories of Vietnam, and when he returned, he wanted to adopt a child from Vietnam, and I was the child selected.
In 2001, she found her biological mother.
We met at an airport in Los Angeles. She flew in from Hawaii, which is where she resides to this day, and I was living in California at that time. So she was overwhelmed with emotions, joy. I had to kind of process how quickly I actually found her just through the help of the internet, different people that I'd never met extend their help and really gave me the strength to do it for other people.
40 years later, with the end of the Vietnam War, Kien and Trista's experiences have had a great impact on their lives and the need to help others. Today, Kien provides dental care in underserved communities, while Trista continues to connect families through DNA. In the meantime, Operation Reunite stands ready to offer a helping hand to families around the world. And Kien's book, The Unwanted, has been optioned by Hollywood to be made into a film. I'm Mike Gilliam for Asian American Life.
If you want to see more of Zhang Hongtu's exhibit, be sure to stop by the Queens Museum right here in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. The exhibit runs through the end of February. And be sure to tune in next month. We're getting ready for the holidays. I'm Renabelle DeMillo for Asian American Life.